Tapping a phone, clicking a single button, swiping a smartwatch over glass. We treat these actions as the peak of modern convenience. But if you strip away the digital interfaces, the biometric locks, and the apps, what remains is a highly specific geometric object, a small plastic rectangle, and the pain of giving up your resources to get it. The credit card industry did not accidentally stumble upon the fact that people spend more when using cards instead of cash. They engineered that outcome over decades, using the most sophisticated applied behavioral psychology available. The asymmetry between what the financial industry knows about human cognition and what you know about your own brain represents a significant gap in your financial life. To see this engineering at work, we can look at functional magnetic resonance imaging. Researchers at Stanford used these machines to observe the brain at the exact moment a purchasing decision is made. They found buying is essentially a neural competition. On one side, the nucleus accumbens. When you see an item, this reward center lights up, generating anticipation. On the other side is the insula. If a price is too high, the insula pushes back, generating the pain of paying. Handing over physical cash triggers intense insula activation, creating a biological brake that limits impulsive consumption. But tapping a card delays the consequence. The transaction's physical weightlessness mutes the pain signal, while the reward center remains fully activated. The brake is removed. Brain imaging reveals that card transactions function in an environment deliberately structured to tilt the scale toward unchecked consumption. This internal neural tilt is supported by external architecture, beginning with the 30-day billing cycle. Our brains operate on an evolutionary cognitive bias known as temporal discounting. We are hardwired to value immediate rewards while discounting consequences that exist in the distant future. This chart plots perceived pain against time, showing we weight a penalty arriving in 30 days at only 50% of an immediate penalty. The credit card industry weaponizes this drop-off. A 30-day billing cycle maximizes the gap between pleasure and pain. If credit card statements arrived within 24 hours of each purchase, spending would drop dramatically. The temporal discount would be erased, forcing the full weight of the cost to be felt simultaneously with the benefit. The 30-day gap is a precise, profitable mechanism designed to systematically inflate your spending behavior. This behavioral architecture extends to the physical interface of the monthly statement. This interface leverages the psychological concept of anchoring, where the first piece of numerical information you encounter skews your final decision. On a $3,000 statement balance, the prominent $75 minimum payment is the anchor. Economist Neil Stewart studied how the presence of this specific, small suggested number alters consumer repayment behavior. This chart compares intended versus actual payments. It reveals the minimum payment anchor depresses actual repayments by 43%, even among users with cash to pay more. It shifts the psychological reference point downward, making anything above the minimum feel like overperformance. The minimum payment calculation is calibrated to trap the maximum possible principal in a high-interest state month after month. Then there is the allure of points, miles, and cashback. To understand these, we look at mental accounting, how humans irrationally categorize the same money into different mental buckets, applying different rules to each. Rewards programs connect this mental accounting directly to the behavioral shaping theories of operant conditioning, pioneered by psychologist B.F. Skinner. Rotating cashback categories and multiplied point events act as a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. This is the exact same unpredictable reward pacing that makes slot machines so psychologically compelling. When you finally redeem those points, mental accounting distorts the reality of the transaction. You categorize the cashback as free, found money, while the original financial cost required to earn it is decoupled and forgotten. These programs function as psychological conditioning engines designed to make spending your own money feel like a lucrative game. We see the extreme conclusion of this payment decoupling in Apple Pay, saved digital wallets, and one-click purchasing platforms. These technologies exploit a vulnerability known as ego depletion. Willpower and self-regulation function like a finite muscle that fatigues after a long day of stress and decision-making. When your cognitive reserves are drained, a tap to pay removes physical friction, erasing the brief pause where your prefrontal cortex might stop an impulse buy. Many users assume that understanding these mechanics, paying their balance in full, and optimizing rewards provides protection. But this creates the dangerous sophistication trap. The confidence of being a savvy optimizer often strips away your anxiety about debt, and by removing that anxiety, you remove the last remaining source of natural spending friction. This cognitive blind spot is compounded by the future self-discount. Research using virtual reality aging simulations shows that we view our future selves not as us, but as strangers. When you make a credit card purchase, your present self consumes the pleasure immediately, while comfortably burdening that future stranger with the financial cost. Technical financial literacy becomes ineffective if it is co-opted into a framework that systematically silences the interests of your future self. Understanding the machinery is the first step, but willpower alone cannot beat an engineered system. You have to systematically re-engineer friction back into your purchasing cycle. The first intervention is the tactile cash supplement. Before making a digital checkout, take 15 seconds to physically visualize counting out paper bills. This nangly wakes up the brain's insula and restores the visceral weight of the transaction. Next is the 24-hour rule for discretionary purchases. The goal is to deliberately starve out the temporal discounting bias until the intense present tense desire equalizes with the future cost. Then there is payment method matching. Restrict your frictionless credit cards strictly to fixed, pre-planned utility budgets. For variable, emotional, or social spending, use cash or debit. This aligns the pain of paying with the decisions that need the most supervision. Finally, practice active rewards reframing. Explicitly tie any rewards redemption back to the specific past purchases that funded it. This destroys the mental illusion of found money. These are targeted neurological interventions designed to force your prefrontal cortex back to the steering wheel. The credit card operates as an adversarial technology, crafted through billions of dollars of applied behavioral research. You have a choice between being a passive user who blindly accepts the product's framing or a conscious actor who understands the psychological game being played against them. Closing the asymmetry between what the industry knows about your psychology and what you know about yourself provides a defense that traditional budgeting cannot match. Maintaining these accounts remains an option, provided you engage with them on terms that protect your executive function and future resources. Understanding this invisible cognitive machinery is the only way to stop being the object of someone else's behavioral engineering.